Franco Columbu was way more than just a famous bodybuilder. He became one of the greatest legends in the history of strength sports, someone who pushed physical limits and shattered expectations in an era dominated by massive athletes. Whenever his name comes up, it's always tied to respect, admiration, and an almost mythical aura within bodybuilding. Throughout his life, Franco built an incredible legacy by operating on multiple fronts at the same time. He was an elite bodybuilder, a champion in strength sports, a powerlifter with mind-blowing numbers, a strongman in brutal competitions, a certified chiropractor, an influential author, and even an actor in Hollywood productions. Very few athletes have ever been as complete and versatile as he was. His nickname said it all, the Sardinian Samson, and that name wasn't given by chance. Franco possessed strength that seemed completely disproportionate to his size, something that shocked anyone who saw him train or compete. More than just titles and trophies, Franco became known for a rare combination that only a handful of athletes ever achieve. He blended extreme raw strength with muscular symmetry, sharp definition, and a deep understanding of his own body. That's why his physique was admired by judges and fans alike, even when he was standing next to bigger, heavier competitors. If you're curious to learn more about this incredible athlete, go ahead and hit that like button, and let's jump into the video. Franco Columbu was born on August 7, 1941, in the small town of Olympia, on the island of Sardinia, Italy. He came from a humble family of shepherds and grew up far from any kind of glamour, surrounded by hard work, rural routines, and very limited opportunities. Nothing about his childhood suggested that one day he would become one of the greatest legends in world sports. From a very young age, Franco lived a physically demanding life. The rural work shaped his character, but not his body. He was small, skinny, and far from the athletic ideal that would later make him famous. Still, it was in that simple environment that he developed something essential: mental toughness, discipline, and an unusually high tolerance for physical hardship. His first real introduction to sports came through boxing. Looking for a way to defend himself and build confidence, Franco started boxing at a young age and quickly showed talent. Over time, he won titles in amateur boxing, proving that even without an impressive physique, he already had uncommon determination and competitive aggression. In the early 1960s, Franco made a bold decision. He left Italy and moved to Germany in search of work and new opportunities. It was a massive cultural shock, but also a crucial period of personal growth. Working hard during the day and training whenever he could, he began transforming not just his body, but his mindset as well. This phase was essential in shaping the man and athlete he would become. Far from his family and facing financial and physical struggles, Franco learned never to back down from a challenge. In 1965, during a competition in Germany, fate crossed Franco's path with a young Austrian who also dreamed big. There, among the weights and the poses, he met Arnold Schwarzenegger. Neither of them could have imagined that this meeting would spark one of the most iconic friendships in the history of sports. From their very first interaction, it was clear there was something different about them. Both shared the same obsession with training, the same almost extreme discipline, and an ambition that went far beyond the norm. It wasn't just friendship, it was a bond forged through sweat, muscle pain, and massive goals. They pushed each other past their limits every single day. Franco and Arnold quickly became inseparable training partners. They spent endless hours in the gym, testing extreme weights, comparing physiques, and exchanging strategies. This partnership created a healthy competitive environment where one fueled the other's growth. Whenever one improved, the other had to keep up. But their relationship went far beyond the gym. They lived together, built businesses side by side, and supported each other through the toughest moments of their lives. Franco stood by Arnold long before he became a global superstar, helping shape not only his physique, but his winning mindset. The ultimate proof of that bond came years later, when Franco became Arnold's best man at his wedding. More than friends, they were brothers on the same journey. In 1969, Franco Columbu made one of the most important decisions of his life. Following in Arnold's footsteps, he left Europe and moved to the United States, the true epicenter of the bodybuilding world. America represented opportunity, but also uncertainty, financial struggle, and competition far fiercer than anything he had ever faced before. As soon as Franco arrived in the US, he received crucial support from Joe Weider, the most influential figure in bodybuilding at the time. Weider offered housing and a weekly stipend so Franco and Arnold could focus on training and competing. The amount wasn't much, but that support was essential for them to survive during their early years in America. Even with that help, reality was tough. The money barely covered basic expenses, and the two of them had to find a practical way to keep chasing their dreams. That's when Franco and Arnold started European Brickworks, a construction and landscaping business. During the day, they handled brutal physical labor. At night, they pushed themselves through extreme training sessions. That exhausting routine built an almost unbreakable mental foundation. Franco wasn't just lifting weights in the gym. He was hauling bricks, digging trenches, and pushing his body to the limit every single day. This mix of real-world physical labor and intense training only amplified his functional strength and endurance. It was during this phase that Franco's true rise began to take shape. He wasn't just another athlete trying his luck in America. He was someone willing to pay any price to reach the top. Franco competed in an era dominated by true giants of bodybuilding. Standing just 5 feet 5 inches tall, about 1.65 meters, he regularly stepped on stage against athletes who were often over 6 feet tall, around 1.83 meters or more. For many judges at the time, that height difference was seen as an almost automatic disadvantage. Still, Franco turned that apparent limitation into one of his greatest strengths. Despite being shorter, he developed a physique that was incredibly dense, compact, and perfectly balanced. Every muscle seemed to sit exactly where it belonged, creating a powerful and harmonious look. There were no obvious weak points, something rare in an era when many athletes focused solely on raw size. The standout feature of his physique was his back. Franco had wide, thick, and deeply detailed lats, creating the famous winged look when he hit his poses. This made him appear much larger on stage than he actually was, constantly surprising judges and fans whether he was facing front or hitting a back pose. By 1974 and 1975, many fans and experts even argued that Franco displayed better definition than Arnold Schwarzenegger. His muscle lines were drier, deeper, and more visually striking, especially when both were compared in the same onstage condition. That competitive edge sparked debates that still exist today. How much does size really matter when defining the best physique? On the other hand, when it comes to pure strength, very few names hit as hard as Franco's. Even weighing around 185 to 195 pounds in competition, roughly 84 to 88 kilograms, Franco was considered one of the strongest men in the world relative to body weight. His strength seemed completely disproportionate to his size. The numbers he put up are still shocking today. Franco squatted 655 pounds, about 297 kilograms, bench pressed 525 pounds, roughly 238 kilograms, and deadlifted an incredible 750 pounds, around 340 kilograms. For someone of his height, those lifts were far beyond what was considered normal. On top of that, Franco also excelled in Olympic lifting. His clean and jerk reached 400 pounds, approximately 181 kilograms, proving not just raw power, but explosive strength, refined technique, and elite coordination. It reinforced the idea that he wasn't simply a strong bodybuilder, but a complete athlete in the purest sense. One of his most unusual achievements even made it into the Guinness Book of Records. Franco managed to burst a hot water bottle using nothing but his breath, blowing air into it with his remarkable lung capacity. It may sound simple, but that feat revealed an insane level of internal strength and bodily control that very few people have ever possessed. And of course, there's one scene that became eternal in sports history. In the documentary Pumping Iron, Franco is seen lifting one end of a car with what looks like effortless ease, leaving everyone around him completely stunned. Even before reaching his peak at the Mr. Olympia, Franco had already built an incredible resume. He captured titles like Mr. Europe, Mr. Universe, and Mr. World, proving that his dominance wasn't a one-time thing, but something consistent across different federations and stages around the world. Back then, bodybuilding worked very differently. The judging system divided athletes by weight classes, usually under and over 198 pounds, about 90 kilograms. This allowed shorter, more compact competitors like Franco to compete on a more level technical playing field before facing the overall winners. Within that format, Franco completely dominated his division. At the Mr. Olympia, he won the lightweight title in 1974 and 1975, presenting a physique that was incredibly defined, dense, and technically polished. His victories left no doubt about his superiority within the class. The defining moment came in 1976, when Franco also won the overall Mr. Olympia title. In the final showdown, he defeated Golden Era giants like Frank Zane, Ken Waller, and Ed Corney, athletes considered absolute benchmarks for aesthetics and stage presence. That win was historic for several reasons. Franco proved that a lighter athlete could beat bigger bodybuilders head-to-head. He showed that muscle quality, symmetry, and density could overcome pure size. But in 1977, at the height of his fame and confidence, Franco chose to take on a completely different challenge. He entered the very first World's Strongest Man competition, an event that pitted bodybuilders against powerlifters and athletes specialized in raw strength. It was an extreme test, far beyond stage aesthetics. One of the most iconic events in the competition went down in history. Athletes had to run while carrying a refrigerator strapped to their backs, a brutal test of strength, balance, and endurance. Franco, despite being lighter than most competitors, shocked everyone by taking the lead in the event. That's when everything changed. During the run, Franco stumbled and suffered a severe injury to his left leg. The scene was devastating. In a matter of seconds, the man known for his superhuman strength was on the ground, in intense pain, unable to put weight on his leg. Silence took over the arena. Even injured, Franco refused to completely withdraw from the competition. Thanks to the points he had earned in earlier events, he finished the world's strongest man in 5th place. An incredible result, considering he was competing against much heavier men and now dealing with a serious injury. For many, that moment felt like the end. Doctors, fans, and experts believed Franco Columbu would never compete at a high level again. The question echoing everywhere was simple and brutal. How could someone come back from an accident that severe? What no one knew was that this fall wouldn't be the end of the story. It would be the beginning of one of the greatest comebacks in bodybuilding history. After the devastating accident, Franco faced the toughest period of his life. There were months, and then years, of intense rehabilitation, painful physical therapy, and rebuilding not just his body, but his mind. Many specialists insisted he would never compete again, let alone return to elite form. During that process, Franco had to relearn basic movements, strengthen damaged structures, and deal with daily frustration. Every small improvement demanded extreme discipline and extraordinary mental strength. It was no longer about lifting heavy weights, but about defeating doubt, fear, and the limitations imposed by injury. At the same time, bodybuilding itself was undergoing major changes. In 1980, the IFBB eliminated weight classes at the Mr. Olympia, forcing all athletes to compete directly against each other. For Franco, that meant facing younger, bigger, and fully healthy bodybuilders, an even greater challenge. Against all odds, in 1981, Franco returned to the stage and delivered one of the greatest comeback stories in sports history. At 40 years old, he won his second Mr. Olympia title, defeating competitors like Chris Dickerson and Tom Platz. It was a victory that shocked the entire bodybuilding world. After that historic triumph, Franco chose to retire from competition at the very top. He had nothing left to prove. His comeback didn't just solidify his legacy, it redefined what resilience truly means in sport. After earning absolute respect in the sport, Franco took his physical presence and natural charisma to a new stage, the movies. That transition happened naturally alongside his close friend Arnold Schwarzenegger, in films that marked entire generations and helped cement bodybuilding's image in mainstream pop culture. Franco appeared in iconic movies like Conan the Barbarian, The Terminator, and The Running Man. Even in smaller roles, his presence stood out. He projected real physical authenticity and a natural sense of power. He didn't have to act like a strong man. He genuinely was one. A curious and symbolic detail showed up in Last Action Hero, where Franco's name appears as the director of a fictional movie starring Arnold. It was a subtle tribute that highlighted how deep his influence ran behind the scenes, reflecting the mutual respect between the two. Over time, Franco expanded his role in the film world even further. He didn't just act, he also wrote, produced, and directed films, many of them shot in his homeland of Sardinia. These projects reflected his desire to tell his own stories while staying connected to his roots. Beyond movies, Franco became a regular presence on television shows and documentaries about bodybuilding's golden era. His image helped immortalize that unique period in the sport's history. After conquering everything on stage, Franco decided to dive deeper into something that had always fascinated him: how the human body actually works. In 1977, he earned his degree in chiropractic from the Cleveland Chiropractic College, showing that his view of sport went far beyond aesthetics and raw strength. Franco specialized in sports medicine, kinesiology, and rehabilitation, blending scientific theory with decades of real-world experience in extreme training. He didn't see the body as just a performance machine, but as a system that needed care, adjustment, and respect to reach its full potential. That mix of academic knowledge and lived experience turned him into a highly sought-after trainer. One of his most famous clients was Sylvester Stallone, whom Franco helped shape iconic physiques for films like Rocky and Rambo. He wasn't just building muscles, he was preparing bodies to withstand brutal filming schedules. Alongside his clinical work and coaching, Franco shared his knowledge through books that became true references in the fitness world. He wrote influential works on bodybuilding, training, and sports nutrition, always advocating a more scientific and individualized approach to physical development. This chapter of his life reveals a lesser-known, but equally important side of Franco. He proved that a true champion isn't defined only by winning competitions, but also by teaching, guiding, and raising the level of knowledge for everyone around him. Now let's rewind a bit and talk about Franco's routine, which was anything but ordinary. He trained up to 6 days a week, with long, intense, and brutally demanding sessions. There was no such thing as a half-effort workout. Every day was treated as a chance to extract the absolute maximum from his body, with total focus and relentless discipline. What truly set Franco apart, though, was how he viewed training itself. Beyond heavy weightlifting, he included posing practice and even ballet-inspired exercises. This wasn't about vanity, it was strategy. Franco understood that stage presentation, body control, and fluid movement were just as important as muscle size. When it came to nutrition, his approach was surprisingly balanced for the era. While many athletes followed extreme diets, Franco believed in moderation and consistency. His foundation was built on whole food proteins, complex carbohydrates, and quality fats, always respecting how his own body responded. He avoided excess and believed that radical approaches rarely produce lasting results. For Franco, the secret wasn't shortcuts, but the daily repetition of the right habits. Eating well, training hard, and recovering intelligently were all part of the same system. That simple yet powerful philosophy shaped not only his physique, but also his longevity, both as an athlete and as a respected health professional. Behind the incredible physique and historic achievements, Franco was known for something even rarer at the elite level of sport: his character. Franco was always described as humble, approachable, and genuinely concerned with helping the people around him, especially younger, up-and-coming athletes. Inside the gym and far beyond the stage lights, he was deeply respected, not just for what he achieved, but for how he treated others. Franco never put himself above anyone, even after becoming a proven champion. To him, knowledge only mattered if it was shared. That mindset became especially clear in his relationship with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold has always made it clear that Franco wasn't just a training partner, but his best friend and lifelong companion, someone who was there during defining moments, through victories and hardships alike, far away from the spotlight. After Franco's passing, Arnold wrote a deeply emotional tribute, saying he would never forget his friend's joy, advice, and the light in his eyes. Those words reveal far more than a famous friendship. They show the true human depth of Franco Columbu. His personal motto summed him up perfectly: winners do what they fear. Franco lived exactly by that principle. And speaking of his passing, sadly, on August 30th, 2019, the sports world received devastating news. Franco passed away at the age of 78 after falling ill while swimming in the region of San Teodoro, in Sardinia, the very land where his journey had begun. It was an unexpected ending for someone who spent his entire life pushing physical limits and overcoming obstacles. The news spread quickly and sent shockwaves through the global bodybuilding community. Athletes, fans, coaches, and legendary figures reacted with disbelief and sorrow. The world hadn't just lost a champion. It had lost a living symbol of the golden era, someone who helped shape what bodybuilding would become in the decades that followed. Franco is often recognized as one of the key figures responsible for bodybuilding's global popularity. Alongside names like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno, he helped take the sport beyond the gym, into movies, television, and popular culture. His presence played a major role in turning bodybuilding into a cultural phenomenon. Even after his death, Franco's legacy lives on in countless ways. His titles remain historic benchmarks. His books continue to influence athletes and coaches, his films are still watched, and his comeback stories are still told as examples of extreme resilience. Franco's story leaves behind a clear and powerful message: size never defined greatness. In a sport that has always celebrated massive physiques, he proved that density, proportion, real strength, and a winning mindset can overcome any apparent disadvantage. The journey of Franco Columbu isn't just about bodybuilding, strength, or titles. It's about someone who came from humble beginnings, suffered brutal setbacks, and chose not to quit. At some point, his story intersects with ours, because all of us have faced limits, doubts, and moments when giving up seemed like the easier option. If this story inspired you in any way, I'm asking for something simple but incredibly important. Hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube that this kind of content matters and helps the channel keep bringing deep, human, and inspiring stories like this one. If you want to support the project even more, consider becoming a channel member. It makes a huge difference and allows this content to keep growing, with more quality, more stories, and more depth. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos. Now I really want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What stood out the most in Franco Columbu's story for you? His unbelievable strength, his comeback from injury, or his humility away from the spotlight? Your participation is what turns this channel into a real community. And before you go, stay with me just a little longer. On the end screen, you'll see another video from the channel that connects directly with this story. Click on it and keep this journey going with us. See you in the next video.